Hi there, everybody. How are you all doing? I hope you are well. Enjoying your Saturday morning. Lots of times when I come out to nature, when I come out on my walks, I get pretty inspired to turn the camera on when I'm outdoors and just kind of doing my thing. A lot of, I don't know, I guess a lot of clarity comes out of that. So it's important for me on a personal level to share it. It's a huge part of what makes me happy. So I filmed a little video about 2 weeks ago about foundations, and there was some discussion about what it means to rebuild a foundation, what that looks like, and who it is actually that does the rebuilding, right? So prior to a spiritual shift, the predominant energy in the navigation mode is the illusory self. What is the illusory self? It is thought, the world of thinking. So the foundations that we build, whether or not they're relationships, jobs, entrepreneurial ventures, many different dynamics can come into play with a foundation. Even so, and I'll get into this a little bit more, health and the physical body. And when thought is the predominant navigational force in creation, it's bound to a psychological structure. So it is operating within a very limited landscape. Why is it limited? The psychology of the human is structured in two different really compartments. There's primary selves. A primary self is the predominant description somebody would use for your personality traits, your persona, your external self, you know? Archetypes, archetypal. You can think of it that way, you know? She's an entrepreneur. She's a creative artist. She's a super controlling person. He's a very nice guy, and so forth. The human goes through their life and adjusts their psychology. Well, they're not doing it. It's just what the energy does. Adjusts its psychology to create a primary set of selves. It also creates a disowned set of selves. These disowned selves go into a part of the unconscious referred to as the shadow. And what they do is they dwell there in a repressed state. So, for example, if you have a predominant sense of laziness about you, and this is not related to the video I did about the spiritual composting and the energy slowing down and transforming and decaying. Decay is a very sacred process. I'm talking more about, you're a great starter, you're not the best finisher, and you kind of get stuck a lot, and you have trouble with leadership, for example. So you could potentially say that a repressed aspect of yourself is the male leader, the male energy of leadership. So that's how that works. Anyway, so when those two psychological structures of the mind are at play, your foundation becomes limited to the roles that those archetypal energies are playing out. When a spiritual shift occurs, kind of a little bit of a mess happens in the psychological ecosystem. All these parts start to come out, they start to make themselves known, and they begin to readjust their roles in the human psyche. What they're doing is they're attempting to come home to wholeness or to balance. So they're reorganizing the psychological structure in a way where no part is disowned any longer, basically. And the new foundation that emerges in this sense is no longer bound to that psychological structure. It's actually bound to the realm of wholeness. So when we ask who is rebuilding the foundational structure of one's life after a spiritual awakening, the true answer to that is wholeness or presence. And however, this is not your presence. It's not Kate/Thought, her presence, because she doesn't have presence. She is part of presence. So in the core expression of void or no thing, none of these dynamics are at play. However, no thing doesn't last as no thing. It expresses and it illuminates as consciousness. That's what we're doing here. That's why there's, flies and water bottles and bodies and all these essentially empty forms playing this game of life. So to answer the question about what it is that is recreating a foundation, it's presence, or it's conscious presence. It's the shift from mind creating to conscious presence creating. So so that's what came up out of that discussion, and just thought I would share that with you. Okay? Take good care, and I'll see you soon. I was just getting in my car and I was about to drive away, and I realized there was one more thing I wanted to say, and I don't want to film in my car because this is way better. Hello, tree. Hello, rocks. Gosh, the really most interesting aspect of a non-dual recognition or a spiritual shift, I'm going to use those two interchangeably now, is really the process itself, this reintegration process of the mind really coming full circle back into the source of its existence, the source of its being itself. And this journey of the mind returning home, coming home to itself, and all the different parts of the mind coming home to themselves, to being, or to truth, or to God. On this journey, they can get stuck. They can get really, really stuck, and it can get really confusing. Eventually, it always works itself out, it irons itself out, and it figures itself out, because the creative power of awakening is so much more powerful than these liminal thought patterns of you trying to figure out what it is exactly that's happening. And your thoughts about your awakening don't impact your awakening at all. In fact, they're like totally unnecessary and oftentimes an obstruction to the process. And basically, what can happen, and I think this is probably due to heavy spiritual conditioning in most cases, because it's rare, although it happens, that a spiritual awakening occurs out of the blue. Well, actually, it always occurs out of the blue, and there are no rules or regulations to why it occurs. But a lot of people that get onto the non-duality subject come from a heavy spiritualized background, myself included. And so the mind naturally takes these spiritual aspects of life and kind of like tries to match them up with non-duality, which it 100% can't do, and it causes a lot of screwy blockages for long periods of time. One of which I wanted to describe that I mentioned in the earlier video is physical. And this is based on a multitude of discussions I've had with people, not just about health issues, but also about you know, people in their retirement age, like 60s and 70s, where they basically go full into the spiritual aspect of an awakening, and they fail to basically, or not they fail because it's not them doing it, but the blockages there are so heavy, the beliefs of spiritual enlightenment are so heavy that it's almost like they disconnect or disembody this awakening. Well, they make it a purely like non-physical thing. I'm not the body, I don't dwell in the body doesn't matter, the body has nothing to do with this. And what happens to the body? Goes downhill. Health issues occur, huge depressive episodes come up, major dysfunctions arise. And I'm not saying that this can all necessarily be avoided, because what is what is, and it may be a necessary part of the deconstructive process, and it most likely is. But, you know, the physical body only goes so far before that embodiment of non-dual consciousness has to enter, like, literally the physical body, the cells. So I wanted to end this video with the, I guess, suggestion that if you're stuck or your life is a mess, but yet non-duality is still so profoundly shatteringly important in your life, which if that's the case, then you're most likely in a massive deconstruction phase of your life. Take care of business in the physical realm. Deal with your physical foundation first. Deal with your body first and foremost, because if this thing's not working, nothing else is going to be working. Go get the necessary medical tests, pay unpaid taxes, fix your car, clean up all that crap in your house that is piling up from years of just, like, you know, hoarding or whatever. Take care of the Kate or the John or the Sally. Then the awakening can move. Because what will happen is that you will completely destabilize yourself and end up stuck and have a very hard time reintegrating these massive spiritual shifts, which I don't even know whether big schools of thought are acknowledging, you know, some of these shifts in consciousness. I know transpersonal psychology sure as heck is, and some, you know, obviously some spiritual religions also are, and all that, but I just thought it was really important to end this video on that note, because when we're talking about foundations, we're really talking about a multi-layered understanding of reality that is a seamless, simultaneous expression or existence. And we can look at only that non-dual aspect, and that's fine, but eventually that's going to have to trickle into and integrate out into all these other things, like, you know, your body, your different aspects of your life, and so forth. So anyways, hope this is helpful. Again, this is years of going through this stuff and really just experiential descriptions that I'm giving you, and yet still descriptions. Remember that too, okay? See you soon. Bye.